Every day, hundreds of thousands of patrolmen report for duty, armed with a badge and the latest in video technology. You are about to witness their never-before-seen footage. Their stories, caught on tape. Now, on disorderly conduct, two of the most savage attacks ever caught on tape. An officer under fire has nowhere to run. A clerk under assault has nowhere to hide. A police helicopter pilot runs out of options.
Mayday, Eagle, we're going down.
Prison guards run out of patience. And what were these guys thinking when they got dressed this morning? It's time to suit up for another action-packed edition of Disorderly Conduct. It's a tranquil Wednesday night along Highway 31 just east of Tyler, Texas. Trooper Stephen Stone pulls over two men for speeding just a few miles an hour over the speed limit.
How you doing, sir?
All right, sir. I do something wrong?
Yeah, a little bit over on your speed.
After the driver steps outside, Trooper Stone discovers an open liquor bottle in the pickup truck.
Hand me that bottle.
Open container of alcohol in the vehicle.
How does that mean?
That's not you?
I'm not drinking.
As the driver searches for his registration, the cautious cop wants to know if he's armed.
You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
No, sir.
No pocket knives, guns, anything like that?
I got a fucking
You got a pocket knife?
While the man gets his knife, Trooper Stone briefly grabs his gun holster. It isn't long before he spots a suspicious bulge in the driver's black trench coat.
What's in here? What is that? In this pocket?
Moments later, the driver pulls out and drops a plastic bundle. The well-trained trooper doesn't want to turn his back to this guy, so he kicks the bundle away.
What's in there?
A weed.
What?
Weed.
Weed?
Yeah. It's a smoke.
Okay, I got a bag full of drugs here.
Now there's more than enough cause to make an arrest. But first, that long coat has to come off.
Take it off.
Take it out, sir.
Take it off, put it on the truck.
The man finally gives up his coat. But he's not about to give up his freedom.
Put it off. Place your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Stop. Stay in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car.
The suspects leave Trooper Stone lying on the side of the road, his body riddled with bullets. But incredibly, this veteran of the war in Afghanistan is still alive. That's him screaming for the dispatcher in nearby Tyler. Within minutes, help arrives just in time to save his life.
You ready for it?
Officer Stone is hit twice in the neck. Despite the fact that over 20 shots were fired, only 6 penetrate his body thanks to his bulletproof vest. Even so, Trooper Stone was seconds from death. Meanwhile, 2 would-be cop killers are on the loose, and every officer in East Texas is on the lookout. Within minutes, Tyler police officer Michael Keeney and his partner think they spot the suspects. Any question he has is quickly answered when the truck's passenger opens fire. Officer Keeney wisely backs off and swerves to get out of the line of fire.
Okay, Y'all watch that car that's coming around. Got a rifle.
Every available unit descends on downtown Tyler to bring this to an end.
Okay, we're coming to the loop. Stop through traffic. Watch him. There's units at the loop. He's right there.
Then once again, gunfire erupts.
Rapid fire. Rapid fire. Judge, they shoot him.
The moving gun battle races out of town with lives on the line.
He's coming around, everybody. Watch him.
When a trooper tries to shoot out the pickup's tires, the driver suddenly swerves and crashes.
He's right down. He's right down. He's right down.
A second look shows that the pickup clips the back of a car that pulled over to avoid the pursuit. The pickup overturns, and the stunned occupants of the car that pulled over get as far away from the action as they can. As for the suspects, their running days are over. More drugs and weapons are found inside the pickup, and it turns out the driver had been deported back to Mexico twice before. The long night is finally over. But the ramifications will remain for a long time. Trooper Stone faces months of rehabilitation, but returns to his job protecting the citizens of Tyler, Texas.
You don't have any weapons on you, do you?
The same is not true for the men who tried to kill him.
Stay the car!
They're charged with 14 counts of aggravated assault on a public servant and face life in prison for each count. A cashier at a liquor store in Waco, Texas, helps the only customer on this quiet Thursday afternoon. The man picks up a large bottle of liquor and appears to be ready to make a purchase. Then, without warning, he goes on the attack. It's hard to watch as the man smashes the bottle over the head of the woman. Then heads toward the cash register. Police arrive to find the cashier in critical condition and the suspect long gone. They immediately release this tape, hoping that someone will recognize the cold-hearted crook. Meanwhile, 100 miles away, officers are scrutinizing another violent video from a few months earlier. It shows two men calmly standing at the counter of this fast food restaurant in Grand Prairie, Texas. Then out of nowhere, a vicious right hand. The man on the right just wanted to get a burger on his way home from a ball game when the suspect suddenly unloads on him. The attacker then rifles through the man's pockets and gets away with all of $3. 2 attacks, 2 suspects, 2 videotapes to help police get their man. Then several days after the liquor store attack, there's a major break in both cases. A man arrested for trespassing is identified as a suspect in the McDonald's assault. Then a citizen recognizes the liquor store attacker when that crime airs on local TV. It turns out it's the same man, and he's quickly captured. Fortunately, both victims survived 2 of the most vicious attacks ever captured on tape. As for the suspect, he faces charges of attempted capital murder and aggravated assault. When disorderly conduct returns, a police chopper drops like a stone.
Mayday, mayday, Eagle, we're going down.
And a marriage on the rocks has a woman running for her life. Coming right at you on Disorderly Conduct. A speeding Bronco flies down the 710 freeway in the port city of Long Beach, California. This high-speed pursuit began far inland near Pasadena. It's already covered over 30 miles, and the suspect shows no sign of pulling over anytime soon. He continues to ignore the flashing lights of a police chopper and numerous ground units as he races along the interstate at over 80 miles an hour. The suspect heads towards one of the harbor exits, but crashes into a chain-link fence in the turn. The entire front of the SUV is mangled by the impact. A debris field of metal and glass litters the highway. Arrows on the exit warn drivers to keep to the left. But the Bronco either missed or ignored the signs on the fence and nearly ran straight through it. Police quickly surround the Bronco with guns drawn and take the suspect into custody. The driver is shaken up in this spectacular crash, but well enough to stand while being patted down and walk to the cruiser in handcuffs. The reckless driver pled no contest to felony eluding and fleeing from a police officer. A police helicopter in San Antonio, Texas lifts off just after 2:30 in the morning. The chopper and its two-man crew are en route to assist ground units in a pursuit.
Eagle, we are airborne.
The onboard camera is rolling as the veteran pilot makes a routine ascent to 500 feet in the early morning sky. What happens 1 minute into the flight is anything but routine, even for a highly skilled chopper pilot. The helicopter shudders and begins to sway back and forth. Then the engine stalls.
Come on, Otto.
The pilot fights to stabilize the craft through an auto rotation, an emergency move to keep the blades of the disabled chopper rotating as it descends.
Eagle, Mayday, Eagle, we're going down.
The pilot radios his location and searches for the best place to land in a bad situation.
Pleasanton and military behind the HEB. Mayday.
Time is running out.
Eagle, Pleasanton military behind ATV.
As the pilot calls on every bit of his training and experience to guide his all but unsteerable chopper to an empty parking lot. Right before he goes in, he sees something that causes him to scream out. The pilot wrestles the chopper under a power line a split second before it slams into the ground. A surveillance camera in the parking lot captures the hard landing on tape, and amazingly, the pilot and co-pilot walking away from the crash. The helicopter explodes on impact, sending plexiglass and metal flying in every direction. The $700,000 chopper is a total loss. The officers suffer only minor injuries in the spectacular crash. They are treated at a nearby hospital and released on a night they were working graveyard and almost ended up in one. A police cruiser arrives to investigate an arson in suburban Farmington Hills, Michigan. Earlier in the day, the white car in the driveway was set on fire and another blaze was ignited in the backyard. The inside of the home was also ransacked. A man seen near the house during the fires fits the description of the estranged husband of this woman, the homeowner. A cruiser leaves to patrol surrounding streets in case the husband is still in the neighborhood. Just a block and a half away, the suspect's gold Chrysler whizzes past the cruiser. The officer makes a quick turn, hits his lights and siren, and alerts the other units. The suspect pulls into a driveway a few houses from his former home. It looks like this chase may be over. But then suddenly, the husband shifts the car into reverse. He cuts right in front of the cruiser, then races down the street. Up ahead, a patrol car blocks the road, but the suspect keeps on going. He swerves around the cruiser and aims his car right at his estranged wife. The car rolls over one of her legs as the terrified woman runs for her life. The suspect never stops to check on her. Instead, he steers his way under the police tape and back onto the road. He gets some serious air when he slams into a parked Mercedes. The damaged Chrysler isn't going anywhere, and the suspect quickly surrenders. Police order him to the ground at gunpoint and take him into custody. Officers direct paramedics to the injured woman. Amazingly, she suffered only minor injuries after being run over by such a large vehicle. The estranged husband isn't likely to be back in his old neighborhood for quite some time. Aside from facing 2 counts of arson, the suspect could be sentenced to life in prison for assault with intent to commit murder. Still to come on disorderly conduct. This robber has a craving for fast cash, not fast food. And an officer pounds home the message to a reckless driver. We've got the action right here on disorderly conduct. It appears to be a typical day for this owner of a sandwich shop in Tampa, Florida.
Thank you very much. Good job.
One of his customers wants some additional salt and pepper. Little does he know that his next patron wants something extra as well. Extra cash. With 2 guns pointed in his direction, the owner tries to keep his cool as he prepares to give away his hard-earned cash.
Open up that rest. Open up. Oh, I gotta tell you again.
While the bandit is distracted, the owner tosses a handful of bills to the floor.
No, get all that in open that back up. Get all that stop playing with these bitches.
Before long, his order is ready and he takes it to go. The owner gives up the cash, but he's not about to give up the fight. He quickly grabs a pistol from under the counter and takes chase. Employees arm themselves and join the pursuit. Through the window, you can see one of the employees firing at the suspect. Despite the exchange of bullets, the suspect gets away and jumps into a car packed with 4 other people. Thanks to a quick call to 911, Tampa police are now on the chase. Several blocks away, the getaway car appears to be stopped by patrol cars.
He's leaving. He just hit that other car.
But then, the driver takes off.
He's bailing.
Around the corner, 2 women suddenly stumble out of the moving vehicle.
Oh, he just threw somebody out of the car.
Police know there are at least 3 men still in that car, and one of them is the suspect in the sandwich shop robbery.
Go to night vision in case they get ready to bail.
The officers in the chopper flip on the FLIR so they can detect heat in the darkness.
There he is. Oops, now he's going.
As the pursuit wears on, the driver turns off his lights.
Black police on maximum 4 door. They blacked out the lights.
When he brakes for a turn, the FLIR camera picks up heat generated from a tire.
Thought they were gonna crash.
Seconds later, the car stops and the 3 men bail.
Stay with the driver.
The helicopter follows the 2 young escapees as they make a mad dash into an apartment complex. With cops both in the air and on the ground, it isn't long before the men are taken into custody. It turns out the sandwich shop robbery is the least of the suspect's worries. He had previously been charged for at least 6 other violent crimes and ends up being sentenced to life in prison. Ever see a flying pickup truck?
Almost 1050.
We've got one right here. Police in Waxahachie, Texas were chasing the reckless driver when he went airborne. It's a heck of a stunt. But police aren't applauding. They're going for their guns. The suspect's first bad choice of the day was getting behind the wheel. The second was taking a swing at a cop with a gun in his hand. Clearly, not a good move. The officer on the left leaves his gun holstered, but fires a few hard rights instead. This has a calming effect on the suspect. The officers are able to get the driver's door open and wrestle him to the ground. You might wonder why someone would put up so much resistance in an unwinnable fight. In this case, we can only guess about the suspect's frame of mind. But it's quite possible he didn't want to be caught on police cameras. Wearing only a skimpy Speedo and a t-shirt wrapped around his face. He was cited for DUI and resisting arrest. And this high-flying misadventure is the end of the road. Moments away on disorderly conduct. Racial tension ignites a prison riot. And a gas station nearly erupts in flames. Things are heating up on disorderly conduct. Someone stole an SUV off a Linwood, California car lot. And police think they've spotted their suspect. That's because the dealer's signs are still on the windshield and the driver doesn't fit the description of any of their employees. The slow-speed pursuit turns into a service station. But it's a safe bet deputies won't let the driver top off his tank. When the suspect stops beneath the overhang, officers come out with guns drawn and order customers to get back. A few moments later, the camera in the chopper captures an ominous scene. That's smoke billowing out of the SUV. The suspect remains inside as smoke pours out from both the passenger and engine compartments. All involved are concerned that a fire is building just a few feet from the gas tanks. Finally, the suspect can't stand the heat any longer, so he opens the door and steps out. He's face down on the hot asphalt. There's no time to wait for the fire department since flames could erupt at any instant. Officers move in to arrest the man. Finally, they drag him to safer ground and take him into custody. But there's still the matter of a potentially huge explosion. As a cruiser pushes the SUV away from the tanks, you can see flames shoot out. A second move sends the SUV to the shut-down street. It's a good thing that most California highway patrol cars are equipped with a fire extinguisher, because it sure comes in handy here. Moments later, the fire department moves in to finish the job. A hot pursuit of a hot car ends with the suspect cooling his heels in jail. He's booked for Grand Theft Auto. It's a wet and gloomy morning at one of the most perilous places in America. And it has never been more dangerous than today. It's California's Pelican Bay State Prison, and the exercise yard has just been reopened to some of the state's most violent inmates. A month before, gang members battled every morning as a race war raged for 6 straight days until the yard was finally shut down. Now, fear is in the air as the area is reopened. And guards on the toughest beat in the state can only hope another war won't erupt. Within minutes, those hopes are dashed. At exactly 9:38 a.m., Latino inmates launch a coordinated attack on members of a rival African-American gang. Hardened criminals unleash their hatred as some fight for their race, others for their very survival. Guards immediately order the inmates to get down as they fire tear gas, pepper spray, and non-lethal rubber bullets. But most ignore the warnings, and this is quickly turning into the most violent riot in the prison's 10-year history. On the right side of the screen, you can see a group of inmates kick and stab a rival gang member. A guard in a tower fires a warning shot, forcing the attackers to move away from their victim. The sound of a real bullet seems to bring the sea of hardened humanity to a halt. But within 60 seconds, the bloody brawl breaks out again. Guards have to decide when and if they have to turn to lethal force. That difficult choice must be made moments later when an attacker raises his arm to stab an inmate. A tower officer fires, mortally wounding the attacker. The felons fight for another 17 minutes before order is finally restored. In the end, the statistics are sobering. 15 inmates shot, 1 fatally, 33 inmates stabbed, 89 prison-made knives confiscated. It all adds up to one of the bloodiest prison riots in California history. Tampa, Florida. An officer's eyesight is one of his most powerful tools. And tonight, this cop has spotted a stolen car.
65 attack, I got a coming back signal 10.
The deputy decides to wait for backup before he flips on his emergency lights.
Before they know we're behind them, I haven't lit them up and they're not running yet.
Then the driver pulls a quick U-turn and the chase is on.
All right, we're running. We're going back north on Hoover. 4 male occupants.
Now it's 4 against 1, and the deputy has no idea if the men inside that Chevy are armed.
Coming up towards Hillsborough.
Even though traffic is light, the driver nearly causes an accident at this intersection. Then down the road, he takes a turn too wide and is briefly forced to take the scenic route. Moments later, there's a near tragedy when the driver runs a red light. Just ahead, officers have laid out spike sticks, but they're not going to work as planned. The cars are too close, so a deputy tries to yank the sticks back. The Chevy manages to get around the clump of spikes, but the squad car takes a direct hit.
Damn it! Somebody just got me with the stick.
Even with his tires going flat, the deputy stays on the Chevy's tail. Then as another cruiser takes the lead, it becomes evident that the end is near. This is a dead-end street, which tends to limit your options when you're running from police. Finally, the Chevy slams into a fence and the pursuit comes to a crashing end. Deputies rush in and take the men into custody, But in the end, only the driver is charged. He is booked for grand theft auto, fleeing and eluding, as well as criminal mischief. Down the road on disorderly conduct. Video proof why a trooper can never let his guard down. And it's a little late for this suspect to start using his head. There's more attitude headed your way on disorderly conduct. This Texas trooper has a hunch. He pulls over a man driving a red pickup truck on I-35 and suspects the guy is hiding something, so he searches the vehicle. The officer is very thorough as the driver patiently awaits his fate. Only this time, fate is about to deliver a devastating blow. It comes out of nowhere. While the trooper is focused on his search, an elderly man flying down the highway is apparently focused on the officer instead of the road. Without warning, his car clips the cruiser, then smashes into the pickup. The horrendous impact blasts the truck driver to the ground and hurls the officer 30 feet into the air. He lands motionless on the roadside. As the smoke clears, the pickup truck is demolished, and the elderly man, dazed and confused, wanders through the frightening aftermath. Shell-shocked bystanders then rush in from all directions to aid the injured. The courts decide that it was just an accident, and the driver is only cited for driving on the shoulder of the road. The trooper was severely injured in the horrific crash, but in the end, he recovers and rejoins the force. Most people drive a little more carefully when they see an officer in their rearview mirror, but that's obviously not the case with this guy. The man seems to have no clue that this road has lanes. And you're supposed to pick one and stick with it for a while. A Texas police officer decides it's time to straighten out this meandering motorist and flips on his siren. But the pickup picks up speed, and the driver continues to swerve. At the next intersection, the man shows he knows where the brake pedal is. The officer inches closer. Now it looks like the pickup is going to ram the patrol car. Then, the suspect hits the gas pedal, and the chase is back on. The driver continues to weave across lanes. Then he makes a double-wide turn into a mobile home park. He travels down the street a bit, then comes to a stop at the last home on the block. The driver opens his door, but moves too slowly for the officer. He finally comes out and stumbles away from the pickup. He seems to have trouble with both his balance and understanding directions.
On your knees. On your knees.
Finally, the lawman has had enough and takes him down. After the young man is placed in the back of the cruiser, the officer decides to check out the pickup. He opens the passenger door to a chorus of broken bottles. The drama may be over in the pickup, but it's just starting in the squad car. The officer turns his dash cam around to see the suspect express his dismay at his dilemma. If there's ever any question why there's a barrier between the seats of squad cars, it's answered on the ride to the station. The suspect not only shares his anger verbally, but physically as well.
That hurt, didn't it?
His hurt head will heal, but there's more pain coming when he arrives at the police station. He's not only booked for driving under the influence and evading arrest, but police also discover he's wanted for a previous DUI case. An officer spots a speeder racing through the outskirts of Wiley, Texas. Instead of slowing down, the driver seems to take it up a notch. As the car turns off the main drag, the officer does his best to close in. But the suspect refuses to cooperate. The good news is that traffic is light. The bad news is that speeds are now nearing triple digits. Keep your eyes on the lights of the suspect's car. You can see it spin out, then crash right through a fence. But this guy isn't about to let a wooden enclosure slow him down. And the officer isn't about to let him get away. They race through the dirt and dust of this East Texas ranch. Then eventually back onto the road. That's where the speeding suspect almost hits a responding squad car. Now the driver has two officers in his rearview mirror as he flies even faster. Finally, he learns the hard way that fast speeds and tight turns don't mix. He loses control, flips his car, and lands upside down. Inside the car, the officers find the man uninjured, but they also discover empty beer cans. He's booked for driving while intoxicated and evading arrest. Next up on Disorderly Conduct, a stolen big rig goes wheels up. And a guy in a department store goes pants down. We've got you covered on Disorderly Conduct. The driver of a big rig with a cargo of raisins refuses to pull over for the highway patrol in Los Angeles. Earlier in the pursuit, the tractor-trailer sideswiped a tour bus and tried to pin a police cruiser against a guardrail. The suspect clips the mirror off a car as he forces his way to the off-ramp. The reckless driver doesn't slow down for cross-traffic and blindly enters an intersection, nearly crashing into a car. The slow-moving chase lumbers through city streets, then takes a brief detour through a residential neighborhood. When the suspect tries to get back onto a main street, he takes the corner too sharply and the container of raisins starts to tip. The tractor-trailer then flips onto its side and slides across the intersection. The out-of-control rig grinds to a smoky stop just feet away from two young boys. One boy runs back for his bike as police move in. The officers draw their guns and cautiously approach the overturned cab. They keep their guns aimed at the suspect as a patrolman smashes through the windshield. They have no idea what condition the driver is in, but they do know that he's dangerous. 2 patrolmen clear away the broken glass and pull the suspect through the opening. The driver of this runaway rig faces a number of charges, including assault with a deadly weapon and suspicion of attempted murder of a peace officer. It's a department store in the small town of Shawnee, Oklahoma, on a quiet Sunday afternoon. It's not the kind of place you'd expect to find anything out of the ordinary. But something in the store has really caught the eye of the man monitoring the security camera. It doesn't seem like anything too disturbing. A guy in a baseball hat with an armload of pants. But the man behind the camera is frantic as he follows every move. Maybe the reason he's shopping for pants is he's not wearing any. That's right. He's walking through the aisles of a major department store stark naked from the waist down. Security has been alerted, and the man on the shopping spree takes off and streaks out of sight. Police say he may be the same man suspected of other flashing incidents in the area. He gets away from officers this time, but his naked shenanigans are caught on tape.
Sunday.